We are live. This is the market update. I am your host, Bill Noble. Powell, done. What does it mean for crypto? XRP, $3. What does it mean for crypto? The crypto bill, 12 Republicans all of a sudden changed their mind. Little sugar going out there. What does it mean for crypto? Well, it all means the same thing, and I'm going to explain it to you all here on the stream today. Let's start with general altcoins. You have XRP, Solana, and Ethereum, who, for all intents and purposes, particularly if you look out over, say, the last 6 to 12 months, and in the case of Ethereum, it's like 2 years, hasn't done anything. Nothing. And then what happens in Washington, D.C.? Well, that depends who you're talking to. If I'm talking to you, a crypto person, you're like, well, I don't understand how this helps me. We already know about it. Gensler's already gone. Why do I care about stable coins? Why do I care about clarity? That's the term, right? You ever hear this? Remember this from like the last 2 years? Well, we can't do crypto because we don't have clarity. Clarity. Who exactly needs clarity? Let's go over that. This is super important. Compliance departments and legal departments inside big institutions have huge amounts of power. Institutions like the SEC or the Fed don't really have to do or say anything to scare banks into compliance. I mean, if they walk through the door, there's a huge problem. And banks and compliance, legal and compliance inside big institutions are designed to prevent them from walking through the front door and going, hey, you're in trouble. So when they pass this rule, when they pass this law, it will allow compliance and legal to allow employees of just about every type of financial company to start talking about crypto. Now, I know you're like, well, wait, what, bro? Are you serious? They're not talking about crypto now. Yeah, they may be, but they can start talking about it in an official capacity. Somebody could pick up the phone and say, hey, let's look at the Bitcoin ETF. Or the company could expand the range of products that they offer beyond the Bitcoin ETF. Or the company could expand the conversations beyond the Bitcoin ETF to futures contracts, right? To futures ETFs, which, by the way, are already online for Solana and XRP. So if you have a conversation, a nationwide allowable institutional retail conversation about crypto, demand goes through the roof that would not normally be seen, because now compliance is like, oh, we're good, party on. Whereas everyone thinks we're in that mode now, we're not. We're not. And we will be when they pass this law. Okay, so passing the law allows the crypto market to price in large institutional entrants and entrants on behalf of retail. So crypto retail really hasn't showed up yet because you haven't seen any FOMO, really, except in like, say, Bonk or a couple other tokens that have done well. You know, obviously Bitcoin, but retail is not here. Now, on the subject of retail, there's XRP at $3, right? That's the 2018 high. And now, you know, everybody was all excited back at Christmas when I was like, oh my God, they're going to have the XRP strategic ETF. And everything went to $3, right? It was going to be, you know, XRP was going to be in the strategic reserve. Correction there. Now XRP is at $3 and everyone's just like, meh. XRP goes through $3 in a world where futures volume is expanding, because it is. They seem to be afraid of $3 the way Bitcoin was afraid of fill in the blank, right? It was afraid of 70. It was afraid of 100. It was afraid of, you know, it was afraid of 110. blah, blah, blah. XRP takes out $3. There isn't going to be any more fear about the price and, oh, it's weird or whatever. And that creates a breakout that can ripple through the entire crypto market. Because, outside of SUI, there really hasn't been marquee altcoin leadership. It hasn't been like 2024, right, when it was like all Solana, right? It was like Solana was just this huge monster that pulled everything with it. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen it. And you could see it with XRP. Solana, to state the obvious, could also wake up because Bonk is up only because Bonk ate Pump.Fund's lunch. They ate their lunch. It's a classic axiom in technology economics. Little guy innovates, big guy wins, right? The big guy just steals it or copies it, boom. And that's what's going on over in the trenches in Solana, right? Now, the Fed. So the whole Powell quitting rumor has accelerated. It's accelerating on Polymarket. Congressmen are trying to get attention. That's members of parliament, like in the United States, are trying to say Powell is done. Look, Powell is done in more ways than one. But let's go over for a moment why Powell stayed. First of all, Powell is a political person, and he's there to resist the orange man as much as possible. That happens to be my opinion. If there is a new Fed chairman, you will get clarity on how they make decisions. Just like when you go into a new group, whoever is running that group is going to find out, where the skeletons are in the closet. And they're going to report that back to the orange man or announce it to the media. They're going to find out. Now, Powell, to be fair, also was at the helm during one of the worst inflation moves ever. And he, like the famous Fed chairman Paul Volcker, wanted to stick around to see a victory over inflation and have it go back to zero. Now, in this era, unlike in 1980 or 1982, a recession is unlikely because of the AI data center growth build out. It's not happening right now. You're not having a massive labor market disruption, although there's no job growth. You don't have anything that's going to create a recession that brings down inflation. And in a certain sense, inflation is outside of his control because that's all fueled by fiscal policy, right? If Congress continues to print money, there's nothing he can do with interest rates except trying to maintain the facade that he's keeping rates at 4% because he wants to be tough on inflation. When the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter whether rates are at 6, 4, or 3, or 2, because whatever Congress, whatever sugar comes out of Congress is what drives inflation. So he stuck around to try to be victorious, and that's probably already happened, or it won't happen at all. So when he leaves, what's the first guy's, when Powell leaves, what's the next guy's first order of business? Yeah, probably to cut rates, but most likely put high-powered money into the system. The first trade in stocks with Powell will be down. It'll be like, oh my God, the Fed's not independent. Oh my God, Trump's trying to make himself king, blah, 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 blah. I don't think any of that is true. I don't think the Fed has ever been independent, but the algorithms will do the first, oh my God, trade if Powell gets forced out. Then they will start pricing in, most likely, a huge surge in sugar, or as the blogosphere called it, high-powered money. In 2023, because headed into the election year, they wanted everybody to have a Merry Christmas. So Powell injected high-powered money into the system, levitating all financial markets, including altcoins and crypto. That's when Solana went from 10 to 200, right? Fed put high-powered money in the system. The meme casino expanded. Boom. That's all it took. And you can bet the first order of business for any new Fed chairman is high-powered money. Now, you're probably looking at me going, hey, Bill, how does high-powered money work again? I'm like, well, actually, no one knows. No one knew how QE worked. I still think people don't know. I mean, now it's kind of like they just absorb the bonds and put the money in the system. But back in the day, they could push a button and goose the stock market. They could. And they could do it again. They could just simply go back to that high-powered money idea. And Bessent can join them through the Treasury. There's multiple ways to put money in the system. I don't think this is priced into crypto. So you have three things under the surface. You have Congress could ignite compliance or get rid of compliance, right, in terms of an obstacle to crypto. You have a huge marquee currency like XRP that just wants to blow through $3, which is an all-time high. And you have this whole idea about high-powered money coming into the system if Powell quits. So any down trade off that, my guess is going to get bought. And, you know, if you think about it, you got a lot of people in equities that are still kind of bearish, right? I mean, you got stuff like NVIDIA. Like, here's a statistic in NVIDIA, just to give you an idea of the absurdity. NVIDIA is now worth more than Amazon, Walmart, and Costco combined. Now, yes, it's the future, but, you know, they have some of that baked in. Don't you think? They have some of it baked in. So there's a huge amount of room for other technologies. And if there's a liquidity injection, which is really what Trump wants, right? He doesn't care whether rates are at, you know, he doesn't care whether rates are at 5 or at 2 or 4 or 2. He cares how much money is being injected into the system to fuel growth in financial assets, get banks lending, get credit card relief, get housing affordable, et cetera. But that all starts with high-powered money. Can't put high-powered money in the system and not have this growth. Because if you just go, well, we're just going to cut rates, the bond market's going to be like, no, I don't think so. High-powered money is coming. And again, you know, that's not fully understood. Because again, go back and ask yourself, like, you know, how did Solana get from 10 to 200? Was it just memes? Yeah, okay, memes were huge, but the whole system moved. I mean, the whole system went parabolic for 3 months, and then, of course, it crashed and came off. This time, if you allow compliance to greenlight crypto with an XRP and a Bitcoin breakout, with retail returning to Coinbase on FOMO, and all of this riding a crest of high-powered money, you have a very bullish case here that is not understood by anybody. Honestly, you know, no one's going to get it until it's over. Like, wow, that was really bullish. God, I had no idea that crypto law was going to be a big deal. Dude, I think it's going to be a big deal. And everybody's always in to sell the fact. I don't even think they didn't even buy the rumor. They bought the rumor in Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin makes sense, right? They're like, wait a minute. This is going to get green lit in every financial institution in the country. So think about that when you look at your screen this morning and be like, oh, wow, look. People can be like, oh, wow, I can't buy this because it's up. I don't know about that. All right, let's welcome who's here. MJ Hits, Roby, what's up? Zepedas, Ben from Down Under, right? We have Gian, Ariana, welcome. Blown Ideas, Yav, welcome. Warmon, hello. Side Hill Forging, good morning. Malik, Tyson, T.O. Savage, the original SGSG, Ariana, Powell's term ends in 2026. Yes, and Javier is here, welcome. Yeah, no, Powell doesn't have to go, and he could fire him, I guess, but why would you want to? Especially if he resists. I mean, you know, that's bad, right? If you're in the Supreme Court trying to fire somebody who's in charge of money, it's not good. He's got to quit. And, you know, it may be in his interest to quit, right? He resisted as long as he could, and then to just like put one underscore underneath it. The orange man is getting really bold with tariffs. Tariffs are not causing a stock market reaction anymore. No one cares. So he can just press and press and press and press. And he may realize that between tariffs and fiscal policy, he doesn't have any control over inflation. So if he's there to be the tough Fed chairman that stops inflation, forget about it. Forget about it. It's not happening, right? It's all a function of fiscal policy. And also the AI equation changes the world. AI, in some ways, it's inflationary in the short term with the data centers, but it's deflationary. It increases productivity. It stunts labor market growth, right? And it's just, I don't know, it can lower costs of things over time. So most of inflation is outside of his control. So, bro, go join a think tank. Go be a professor at a school. What do you need this for? You need to be on the hook for the $2.5 billion building? I don't think so. They're nailed on that, right? He's going down over the building alone. Not that Uncle Sugar spending $2.5 billion worth of anything is a problem. I guarantee you, every congressman who walked out of the orange man's office walked out with more than $2.5 billion for his district. I can promise you that. Okay, let's get into news. Okay, so as we discussed, Trump now has a deal to get the crypto bill done. Okay, Powell says higher inflation keeping him on hold. Sharing the wrong screen. Okay. Okay. Powell says higher inflation keeping him on hold. Well, I'm still sharing the wrong screen. Okay. I'm going to try this again. And we are going to get there. Okay. As we said, really, it's out of Powell's hands. Okay. So Congressman trying to say he's out. Some serious engagement farming there for Paulina, who actually has 400,000 followers. Good for her. Okay. Polymarket odds on Powell's ouster. It's not quite imminent according to Polymarket, but it is up like to 65%. Now, we're going back and forth on who should be the next Fed chairman. Somebody named Hassett is supposedly the guy. That's nice. I really don't want it to be Bessent for what it's worth. This is Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. He's too good on Sunday talk shows. He's really the only high IQ part of the administration. I mean, I know Trump is intelligent, but he doesn't sound like it on Twitter. So keep Bessent where he is. Okay. There's a lot of talk about gold, the fiscal collapse. People are just trying to find something to talk about on the economic side. I don't think there is anything to talk about. The only thing to talk about is that the only way the dollar is going to fall in value is if crypto goes up. And that is the market update. That is it. Right now, this is suggesting that gold has like tripled. It's constantly, tripling over long periods of time. I think a lot of countries have done the wrong trade. They've bought gold. That's nice, but you're not going to get the price appreciation. You're not going to get the price appreciation that you're going to with crypto. And the best producer in the history of YouTube is also telling us that, will Trump remove Jerome Powell is only at 23%. So all these congressmen talking all this stuff about Powell quitting. Even if Powell doesn't quit, he's going to put high-powered money in a system to save his job. Like that could be a signal unto itself. Unto itself. Okay, note, again, like I said, Johnson eyes Wednesday's revote to take crypto defense spending bills. Did they tie some defense spending sugar to the crypto bill to get everyone to cooperate? I think so. This is interesting. With a strong chance of the Clarity Act passing, certain video game tokens are exempt from being digital commodities. Okay. This creates the clear path for AAA studios to get on chain. So name 3 gaming tokens. Anybody? What? I was like, Gala, Gods Unchained. I know there's a big one that trades on Coinbase. I don't know, man. That whole sector could just wake up. This says a 63% chance as of a couple hours ago, right? That was midnight. I think it's a lot higher than that, especially if they're handing out sugar. And this is a great headline. Crypto is going mainstream and you cannot put the genie back in the bottle. You cannot. You know, this same group just released a tweet that says, you know, Bitcoin's going to 200K. Now, I don't know that you want something crazy like that in Bitcoin. I think you would prefer a more orderly ascent and let altcoins get a little wild because altcoins are suppressed. Okay. Don't you love these guys? I love these guys. Documenting Sailor. Okay. Bitcoin is going parabolic. It went from 118 to 119 and 130 by the end of today. I think you're going to see a range in Bitcoin between 110 and 120 something. And it's going to go back and forth or just sit in there for a while. Now, of course, big boy can take off, but the stuff that really needs to break out from the high-powered money is everything I just told you about, right? Like, name 3 coins on World Liberty's book. Okay, there's ETH and what else? There's SEI, there's Avalanche. These things could start breaking out. And that Trump token may not be dead. It may not be, right? It's overpriced, and the optics over the law enforcement issue are problematic, but that's when you buy things when they are problematic. Is somebody going to be accepting that as money at Christmas? I'm just saying. What's on their books? You know what's going up? What they own. It's easier to get a house, right? Real estate. It's easier to get a house by backing it with Bitcoin. So I used to talk about this a long time ago. It was like one of my boomer points. It's now, it's not even a point anymore because Coinbase has $1 billion worth of loans, is that Bitcoin and crypto would go up when crypto would become collateral, right? The FTX failure, the FTX debacle was because crypto could not act as collateral. Like Luna blew up because Bitcoin was not recognized as collateral. Now it is. I mean, Luna tried to have Bitcoin as collateral, but Bitcoin collapsed. Those kind of collapses with the kind of fiscal policy we have, the only way you get that is if you get some sort of idiotic, parabolic, too soon, you know, too much too soon, which, you know, that is a part of crypto history. Too much too soon. All right, XRP tokenizing real estate. If XRP business development, I swear, if they had any sense, they would have a meaningful XRP announcement coming out every day this week, every single day. And it's only going to take one before it blows through. Because what they're going to do is they're going to price in the next 4 or 5 announcements. Wow. The demise of Michael Saylor, huh? Oh, yeah, I don't think so. All these pension funds and mutual funds that are buying the common stock, all these financial instruments that he issues to buy Bitcoin, there's like a whole different group of them. There's actually 6 of them. I don't think they list them here, but there's a lot of products. He's been, you know, he comes up and invents a new thing, and somebody in a, you know, somebody with a CFA or an MBA goes, okay, let's try this kind. You know, let's pay interest. Let's have it, you know, all these different preferred stocks all have different features. And of course, insurance companies and players who can't buy Bitcoin are just hoovering them up. Then they're laughing all the way to the bank. Like, wow, I'm sitting here with a Bitcoin instrument and the guy's paying me like 10% interest and I'm getting Bitcoin exposure without violating anything in my charter. It's an absolute no-brainer. And again, there's those securities rise in price. There's no limit to how much money they'll give him until you have a very mature ETF market across multiple different coins. Right now, like his preferred stock is the only game in town. Steak and Shake. They started taking a Bitcoin for burgers at 103. So they got a bunch of Bitcoin on their book from selling hamburgers. And I hate to tell you this, but I actually do want to go there. But they did paint everything inside the building orange. And the thing that was interesting about that is that was not a superstitious top. Matter of fact, as I think about it, Steak and Shake, I was like, wow, that's cringe. And it did go down, right? When cringe or negative news happens and it doesn't go down, what's it going to do? It's going to go up. This XRP futures volume, ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement. XRP is not just a retail YouTube game anymore. It is not. Matter of fact, if I get attention from the XRP community, that's why. I mean, they're doing this. Like somebody's going, oh my God, speculators are going, oh my God, this is going up. They don't know about $3. I mean, yeah, maybe they do, but they're probably looking at it like, well, Bitcoin blew through its all-time high. ETH isn't even close. Neither is Solana. This feels like the next big breakout. So let's buy the futures contract. Hedge funds can buy the futures contract. And of course, this is eventually going to wind up in an ETF. So the BlackRocks and all these characters have to start accumulating inventory. Well, let's accumulate some inventory before this thing blows through $3. And when it blows through $3, you could see the type of price action that you saw in Bitcoin. If they can do it in Bitcoin, they can do it in fill in the blank coin. Fill in the blank. I mean, I don't see how this can not happen. Okay. Ripple has a partnership announcement, right? If they were smart, they would announce partnerships all day long. Okay. We're not doing a correction. Said differently, ETH is going to 3,400, then it's going to 4,000, according to this person, right? And then, of course, everybody's got a cool line that they can draw with Ethereum. The simple fact of the matter is ETH was at 3,200 when FTX started. So really all we've done at this current price is unwound FTX. That's it. That's it. We've unwound FTX. ETH has made no progress. There's nothing new. There's nothing new for ETH. Nothing. Really. Okay. Bitcoin dominance is falling. Right? This is Bitcoin dominance. ETH BTC is rising. Nice little square action here. When ETH does anything in a square consolidation, when it goes, it goes. You don't need 50 coins. You need the right ones. That's also true. And it can be very simple. This is not complicated. It's the Magnificent Seven of crypto, right? What's the Magnificent Seven of crypto? The Magnificent Seven of crypto is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, right? XRP. There's your top four. Now add three more. I don't know. You may be able to put in SUI. You might be able to put in Aave. So if you had Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, okay, Aave, and SUI, that's 6. And then what's your 7th? I don't know, whatever's hot today. Bonk. And it can go all the way down to something as boring as Chainlink or Uniswap. But you definitely have 6. You definitely have 6. The Magnificent Seven, by the time the rally was all said and done, people looked at it like it was a no-brainer and you were an idiot if you didn't see it. But I can tell you right now, people didn't see it. People didn't see it in the beginning. They didn't. They didn't see it in 2010. They didn't see it in 2011. Okay, maybe they didn't see it in 2014. 2014, my Goldman career ended because nobody thought the stock market was ever going to move again. That's how range bound it was. They assumed no change in the presidency, that was going to be Hillary, no change in monetary policy, that was Yellen, and it was never going to move again. Everyone's like, oh, this was obvious. No, it wasn't. I can't believe it's obvious to us, but it's not obvious to the general public. They don't know they have to get in on this. And let's look at who is getting in on this. Peter Thiel, $180 million in a Bitcoin miner. Yeah, okay. So this guy, I don't know. He's about as close to the devil as you can get, I think. There are a couple of these characters out there. Somebody asked this guy, does he believe the human race could survive? The pause to answer the question was so long that the commentator commented on the pause twice. Hence my saying that crypto is the pro-human agenda. I got a friend who's written a book, hackers versus hedge funds. What is the pro-human agenda? Bitcoin, crypto, right? What's the AI trade? Ready? Bitcoin, crypto. These creeps are coming. They're coming. They're going to do their thing. You better do yours. Bonk _fund flips Ethereum in 24-hour revenue. I mean, this is up. Bonk is up 10% today. Like a meme coin token with utility. Imagine that. Vitalik proposes minimalism to layer 2 blockchain success. Right. Because every layer 2 is eventually going to have to come up and I think settle itself on the Ethereum network. The same thing goes for Bitcoin layer 2s. And I think Arbitrum, somebody else is moving to Arbitrum today. I can't believe it. Right. Like I got a friend, a kid who I trained as an analyst, who didn't need much training, to be honest. He works in business development at Arbitrum. They got to be wearing lampshades on their head. They got Robinhood and they got something else today. They got announcement after announcement after. No one cares. No one's trading these things. Oh, okay. Okay. So, yeah, here we go. Larry Ellison from Oracle is now the second richest man on the planet. Just in case you don't think you need transactional freedom or privacy. Yeah, just you can have a look, right? Second richest guy in the world. Definitely wakes up in the morning and goes, all right, I want to think about what's best for you. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay. I want to do some TA. So, bonk, this is a monster parabolic happening. And here's what's funny. It doesn't even really look like it, to be honest. I mean, yeah, it's breaking out, but it's way off its high. And you can say that across crypto. And frankly, Solana is only up 2%. Bonk is leveraged Solana. Okay, so that's now the casino, but no one's trading Solana. It's a joke. It's a joke when you get that's why I went through this whole regulatory clarity thing. XRP. Like if you look at the DeMark work on XRP, I joke about the one chart market update. This is the one chart market update. XRP goes up, has a 9 signal. You should have a counter trend pause. XRP tries to rally, comes off hard, but the bulls buy it back. Textbook. XRP sticks here below $3. Once it goes through, you're going to have 2 weeks of upside. So if XRP is going from 3 to 4 and bonk is up 20% in one day, where is this market going again? Think about that when you look at your screens today. That's the market update. We will see you tomorrow.